At my grandson's wedding, my son announced to everyone, "You are not family. You are just here to eat for free," and he forbade the waiter from serving me. 200 people looked at me as if I were a criminal, an intruder, a beggar who had crashed a millionaire's event. But suddenly, a gentleman with white hair and a fine suit, whom I was seeing for the first time in my life, approached me, touched my shoulder firmly, and whispered in my ear with a voice that seemed to cut through the air, "Take my hand, and they are going to swallow their tongues when they see who is with you." I did not understand anything. Who was this man? Why did he speak to me with such assurance? Because his light brown eyes looked at me as if he had known me forever. But before I can process what was happening, I need to tell you how I arrived at this moment of absolute humiliation. Let me go back 3 hours. 3 hours that feel like 3 years of torture. I am standing in front of the mirror in my small bedroom, getting ready for the wedding of Noah, my adored grandson. I am wearing my lavender dress, the one I bought at the discount store after saving up for months. It is not a big deal, I know. The fabric is synthetic, the seams are not perfect, and it has a small embroidery on the collar that I tried to do myself to give it a special touch. My arthritic hands trembled while I sewed those little white flowers. I look in the mirror, and I see a 72-year-old woman, with deep wrinkles around her eyes, her gray hair pulled back in a simple bun, without jewelry except for the small silver crucifix that my late husband gave me. I look exactly like what I am, a retired seamstress who lived her whole life in poverty so that her son could have opportunities. The telephone rings. "It is Richard, Mom," he says with a strange tone, almost nervous. "About the wedding today, I need you to understand something. There are going to be very important people there, partners of mine, investors, people of high social standing. I need you to behave appropriately." Something in his voice makes me feel small, insignificant. "Richard," I respond, trying to sound cheerful. "I am your mother. Of course I am going to behave well. I just want to see my grandson happy on his big day." There is a long pause. I hear Catherine speaking in the background, but I cannot make out the words. Then Richard says, "Just keep a low profile, okay? Don't talk too much to the guests. And please, please, do not mention that you worked as a seamstress or cleaning houses. It is embarrassing." Every word is like a stab wound. Embarrassing. My honest work, the sweat of my brow, the years of sacrifice, everything is embarrassing to him. He hangs up without even saying goodbye. I arrive at the event hall, and I am paralyzed. It is a palace. Giant crystal chandeliers hang from the ceiling. The tables are decorated with floral centerpieces that probably cost more than my rent for a month. The guests look like they stepped out of a fashion magazine. The women wear dresses of silk, velvet, French lace. The men wear tuxedos as if they were going to a presidential inauguration. And I am there in my lavender discount store dress. An employee of the venue looks me up and down with disdain the moment I cross the door. "Ma'am," she tells me with a sharp tone, "this is a private celebration. If you are here to apply for a job, the service entrance is around the back." "No, no," I stammer, feeling humiliated. "I am the groom's grandmother. Richard is my son." She looks at me with evident disbelief, as if I had just said I am the Queen of England. She checks her list with a furrowed brow. "Ah, yes, here is your name. Go ahead." I enter the main ballroom, and I feel all eyes fixed on me. They are not looks of polite curiosity. They are looks of judgment, of disdain, of barely disguised disgust. I head toward where Richard is speaking with a group of impeccably dressed men. They wear watches that shine like lighthouses in the night. Richard sees me approaching, and his face changes completely. The professional smile he had disappears. His eyes harden. He excuses himself from the men and walks quickly toward me, intercepting me before I reach his social circle. "Mom, what are you doing here so early?" he says through clenched teeth, grabbing my arm tightly. "And that dress. I told you to wear something elegant." "This is the most elegant dress I have, Richard. I spent 3 months of my pension on it." He closes his eyes as if it physically hurts him to see me. Catherine appears out of nowhere, dazzling in her champagne-colored dress covered in crystals that capture the light like little diamonds. Her makeup is perfect. Her hair is styled in an elaborate updo that probably took her hours at the most expensive salon in the city. "Eleanor," she says my name, as if it were poison. You really came like that? I cannot believe it. I look at my dress, then at hers, and I understand. I understand perfectly. I am the stain on their perfect painting. I am the living evidence that Richard was not always rich, that he comes from poverty, that his mother scrubbed floors to pay for his education. Pamela, Catherine's cousin, approaches with a glass of champagne in her hand. She wears an ivory dress with a neckline that leaves little to the imagination. She looks at my dress and lets out a little laugh. Oh, Catherine, you didn't tell me there would be themed entertainment. This tribute to the 70s is adorable. The three of them laugh. I lower my gaze. Noah appears then, my beautiful grandson in his white tuxedo. He sees me, and his face lights up. "Grandma!" he shouts, running toward me. "You came!" He hugs me tightly, and for a moment I forget all the humiliation. This is my grandson, the baby I took care of when Richard and Catherine went on trips. The boy who called me every week to ask me how I was. But Catherine grabs him by the arm abruptly. "Noah, honey, you need to greet your father's investors. They are very important people. Let's go." Noah looks at me with guilt, but he obeys. He always obeys his mother. The ceremony begins. I sit in the last row, even though I am the grandmother. The first rows are reserved for business partners, for the bride's elegant family, for people who matter. I do not matter. After the ceremony, everyone moves toward the reception area. There are long tables full of food that looks like it was taken from a 5-star restaurant. Lobster, salmon, meats that I cannot even pronounce. Waiters with white gloves circulate with trays of canapés and glasses of champagne. I am hungry. I did not eat anything all day because I wanted to save my appetite for the celebration. I approach one of the food tables timidly, and that is when it happens. Richard sees me. He walks toward me with furious steps. Catherine comes behind him. Pamela follows him like a vulture, waiting for carrion. "Mom," Richard says, in a loud voice, loud enough for several guests to turn and look at us. "What do you think you are doing?" "I am going to serve myself a little food, Richard. I am hungry." He laughs. It is a bitter, cruel laugh that I had never heard come out of his mouth. "Hungry? Of course you are hungry. You came here just for the free food, right? You don't care about your grandson. You don't care about this family. You just wanted to come and have a feast that you cannot afford." The entire ballroom goes silent. 200 people stop talking and look at us. I feel the heat rising to my face. "Richard, please," I whisper, "don't do this." But he is out of control. Or perhaps this is exactly what he planned from the beginning. "You are not family," he shouts, pointing his finger at me. "You came here to eat for free. Look, everyone. This woman crashes elegant events, pretending to be someone she is not." Catherine joins the attack. "It is embarrassing, Eleanor. Look at yourself. That cheap dress. Those worn-out shoes. You do not belong in this world. You have never belonged." A waiter approaches with a tray. Richard stops him abruptly. "Do not serve her anything. No food, no drinks. It is forbidden. If she tries to take something, notify me immediately." The tears begin to roll down my cheeks. I cannot control them. This cannot be happening. My own son. The boy I breastfed. The boy I held on stormy nights. Pamela approaches with her glass of champagne and a diabolical smile. "If you are so hungry, Eleanor," she says, deliberately spilling a little food from her plate onto the floor, "eat from there. That is where you belong. On the floor with the dogs." People laugh. Some take out their phones to record. And just when I think I cannot endure any more humiliation, when I am about to run toward the exit and disappear forever, I hear those footsteps behind me. Firm footsteps that resonate with authority. A hand touches my shoulder. I turn around and see that man with white hair, impeccable dark gray suit, light brown eyes that look at me with an intensity that cuts off my breath. "Mrs. Eleanor," he says with a deep voice, "take my hand, and they are going to swallow their tongues when they see who is with you." My hand trembles when I extend it toward this unknown man. His fingers are warm, firm, secure. He takes me by the hand with a delicacy that contrasts brutally with the emotional violence I just suffered. I feel something strange run through my body. It is not romantic attraction. It is something deeper, more unsettling, as if my soul recognized something that my mind cannot comprehend. Who are you? I manage to whisper while the tears continue running down my cheeks. He does not answer directly. Instead, he turns toward the entire ballroom, toward the 200 people who just seconds ago were laughing at my humiliation. His presence is so imposing that the murmur of voices fades gradually until absolute silence reigns. Even the background music seems to have disappeared. Richard looks at us from where he stands, with Catherine clinging to his arm. His expression goes from fury to bewilderment. He squints, trying to identify this elegant man who has just burst into his perfectly orchestrated torture scene. The man with white hair takes a step forward, still holding my hand. He carries his cane with a silver handle in the other hand, using it more like a scepter than a support. There is something regal in his posture, something that demands respect without needing to shout. "Good evening," he says, with a voice that fills every corner of the room. His accent is refined, educated, the accent of someone who has traveled the world and has walked through the halls of power. "My name is Arthur Sterling, and I believe there are some things I need to clarify tonight." Richard turns pale. Not completely white, but I can see how the color leaves his cheeks. Catherine looks at him confused. Pamela takes a step back, her cruel smile finally erasing from her face. Arthur Sterling. The name resonates in my head, but I cannot place it. I have never heard that name in my life. Or perhaps I have. There is something in that last name that feels vaguely familiar to me, like a distant echo of a conversation forgotten decades ago. Arthur releases my hand, only to place his arm around my shoulders in a protective, almost paternal way. I feel small next to him, but not in a humiliating way. I feel protected, safe for the first time all night. "I see you were having an interesting conversation about who belongs and who does not belong to this family," continues Arthur, looking directly at Richard. "I would like to participate in that conversation, if you allow me." Richard finds his voice, although it comes out trembling. "Sir, with all due respect, this is a private family matter. I don't know who you are, but you have no right to interfere." Arthur smiles. It is not a kind smile. It is the smile of a shark that has just smelled blood in the water. "Oh, but I have all the right in the world, Richard. You see, I have known your mother for a long time, much longer than you imagine. My heart beats so hard I think it is going to pop out of my chest. What is this man saying? How does he know me? Why does he speak as if he had some kind of history with me?" I try to look at him, searching for answers in his face, but he keeps his eyes fixed on Richard. Noah approaches from where he was with his new wife. "Grandma, are you okay?" he asks with genuine concern in his voice. He looks at Arthur with curiosity and some distrust. "Who is this gentleman?" "This gentleman," says Arthur with an almost amused tone, "is someone who should have appeared in your life many years ago, boy. But better late than never, don't you think?" Catherine finally finds her shrill voice. "Look, I don't know what game you are playing, Mr. Sterling, but this is my son's wedding. If Eleanor brought a companion, she should have informed us beforehand. Anyway, she is no longer welcome here, so both of you can leave." Arthur lets out a laugh. It is a deep, resonant laugh, full of irony. "Oh, Catherine, sweet and ignorant Catherine, let me ask you something. Do you know where you are standing right now? Do you know this ballroom?" Catherine looks at him as if he were crazy. "Of course I know it. It is the most exclusive event hall in the city. It cost us a fortune to reserve it. We had to pay $50,000 just for the rental." $50,000? repeats Arthur, nodding slowly. "Interesting. And to whom exactly did you pay those $50,000? "To the company that owns the place, obviously," responds Catherine with impatience. "What does that have to do with anything?" Arthur taps his cane gently against the marble floor. The sound resonates like a gunshot. "It has to do with everything, my dear. Because I am the owner of this company. I am the owner of this ballroom. In fact, I am the owner of this entire chain of event halls, 5 in total, valued at approximately $40 million. The silence that follows is so dense it could be cut with a knife. I can see everyone's minds processing this information. Richard opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. Catherine looks like a statue of salt. "So, technically," continues Arthur with a casual tone, "you are celebrating this wedding on my property, which gives me certain authority over who is welcome and who is not, and I assure you that Eleanor is more than welcome here. Pamela tries to intervene with her annoyed voice. But that does not explain why you are defending a complete stranger. What does it matter to you if the poor mother-in-law of the family feels uncomfortable? Arthur looks at her with such intensity that she physically recoils. She is not a stranger to me, he says slowly, and she is definitely not poor, although she herself does not know it yet. Now I am completely confused. What is he talking about? What do I mean I do not know? I know exactly how much money I have. Practically nothing. My pension barely reaches enough to pay the rent and eat. Arthur finally looks at me. His light brown eyes meet mine, and I see something in them that makes me tremble. Guilt, deep regret, ancient pain. Eleanor, he says softly, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you 46 years ago. 46 years. I do the calculation quickly in my head. 46 years ago, I was 26. I was pregnant with Richard. I was alone, desperate, working 3 jobs to survive because the father of my son had abandoned me when he found out I was expecting a baby. The father of my son. I look at Arthur more closely now. I study his face, his features, the shape of his eyes, the line of his jaw, and then I see it. I see it so clearly that I cannot believe I did not notice it before. Those light brown eyes. Richard has exactly the same eyes. The shape of the nose. The same nose I see every time I look at my son. The strong line of the jaw. Noah inherited it from his father, who inherited it from Richard, who inherited it from... No, I whisper, feeling like my knees are about to give way. It cannot be. You are... Arthur nods slowly. I am Richard's father, Eleanor, the man who abandoned you pregnant 46 years ago, the coward who fled when you told him you were going to have a son, the monster who left you alone to face the world. Richard makes a strange sound, something between a stifled scream and a sob. He staggers, and Catherine has to hold him up. His face goes through 1,000 emotions in seconds. Confusion, shock, anger, pain, disbelief. That is a lie, he shouts finally. My father died before I was born. My mother told me. You are lying, he insists. Arthur takes something out of his pocket. It is an old photograph, worn by time. He walks toward Richard and hands it to him. I did not die, son. I ran away, and it is the greatest shame of my life. Richard takes the photo with trembling hands. I can see from where I am that it is an image of 2 young people. A girl of perhaps 25 years with a simple dress and a shy smile. A boy of about 27 with dark hair and those unmistakable light brown eyes. They are holding hands. They look in love. That girl is me, I whisper. 46 years younger. That boy is Arthur, I say. 50 years younger. This cannot be happening, I murmur, feeling the world spin too fast around me. Why now? Why after all this time? Why here? Arthur turns toward me with tears in his eyes. Because I have been a coward for 46 years, Eleanor. Because I looked for you for decades, but I never had the courage to face you. Because I built a business empire, but I could never build the courage to ask for your forgiveness. Until I saw your name on the guest list for this wedding. Until I knew that my son, the son I abandoned, was about to humiliate you publicly. And I could not allow it. Noah approaches slowly, looking at Arthur as if he were seeing a ghost. So you are my grandfather, he says with a small voice. My biological grandfather, Arthur nods. I am, my boy, and I deeply regret not having been in your life. The ballroom explodes in murmurs. 200 people talking at the same time, processing this impossible turn of events. I hear fragments of conversations. He is the owner of Sterling Halls. He is worth millions. What a scandal. The poor woman. The son must be destroyed, but I cannot process any of that. I can only look at Arthur, this ghost from my past who appeared out of nowhere just when I needed him most. 46 years. 46 years I have carried the pain of his abandonment. 46 years I have worked until destroying my body to compensate for his absence. Richard continues looking at the photograph as if he could change reality with enough concentration. His hands tremble so much that the image shakes. Catherine tries to take it from him, but he pulls away abruptly. You lied, Richard says, looking at me with eyes full of tears and fury. You told me my father had died. You made me believe I was an orphan. All this time you lied. My voice comes out broken, barely audible. I was protecting you. Richard, you were a child. How was I going to tell you that your father abandoned us, that he didn't want us, that he chose his freedom over us? Arthur takes a step toward Richard with his hand extended. Son, you need to understand. I was young, stupid, terrified. When your mother told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I came from a rich family that had threatened to disinherit me if I continued with her. Eleanor was poor, without family, without connections, and I was a coward who chose money over love. Don't call me son, spits Richard. You have no right. Where were you when we had to eat rice 3 times a day because there was no money for more? Where were you when the other kids made fun of me for not having a father? Where were you when my mother worked 20 hours a day to pay for my education? I was not there, admits Arthur with a broken voice, and I will live with that guilt until the day I die. But I am here now, and I am not going to allow you to treat your mother the way you have treated her tonight. Catherine finally finds her voice, although it comes out shrill and desperate. This is ridiculous. Richard, you don't have to listen to this. This man appears out of nowhere with dramatic stories just when we were putting your mother in her place. It is suspicious. He is probably lying to manipulate us. Arthur takes out his phone and in seconds is showing something to Catherine. It is a DNA test. I had a test done with a hair from Richard that I obtained from his office 3 months ago. 99.9% probability of paternity. I am not lying. How did you get a hair from my office? Asks Richard with disbelief. You have been investigating me, spying on me. I have been trying to gather the courage to approach you for years, responds Arthur. I hired investigators. I know everything about your life, Richard. I know you have an import and export company. I know you live in the Riverside building on the 12th floor. I know your son Noah studied business administration, and I know something else, something that perhaps your wife does not know. Arthur's tone changes. It becomes colder, more calculating. Catherine looks at him with sudden distrust. What are you talking about? She asks with a tense voice. Arthur walks slowly around them like a predator circling its prey. I am talking about the fact that Richard's prosperous company is a complete facade. I am talking about the fact that he owes $2,300,000 to 3 different banks. I am talking about the fact that he is 3 months away from total bankruptcy. That is private, shouts Richard with his face completely red. You have no right to investigate my finances. I have every right when my investigators discover that you are using fraudulent information to get loans, responds Arthur coldly. Altered financial reports, fake invoices, contracts with shell companies, everything is documented. I take a handkerchief out of my purse to dry the tears that won't stop falling. I do not understand anything of what is happening. Richard is broke. My successful son, my son who drives a luxury car and lives in an elegant building, is broke. Catherine becomes hysterical. That is a lie. We live very well. We have everything. How dare you come here to defame my husband? Arthur takes a thick envelope out of his jacket. He opens it and extracts several documents. He places them on the nearest table where everyone can see them. Account statements, debt notices, letters from banks demanding payment, all with Richard's name clearly visible. Noah approaches to look at the documents. His face crumbles. Dad, he whispers, this is real. These debts are real. Richard tries to snatch the papers, but Arthur is faster. He holds them out of his reach. It is not just the debts, continues Arthur. It is how you got them. You used your mother's name as a guarantor on 2 of those loans without her knowledge. You forged her signature. What? I scream, feeling the ground disappear beneath my feet. Richard used my name? He forged my signature? Arthur nods with a somber expression. If those loans are not paid, Eleanor, the banks are going to go after your house. The small house you bought with so much effort after 30 years of saving. They are going to foreclose on it for debts you didn't even know existed. I look at Richard searching for a denial, an explanation, something that makes this not true. But he does not look at me. He has his gaze fixed on the floor, his jaw tight, his fists closed. It is true, I whisper, feeling nausea. You did it. You put my house at risk. Catherine tries to defend her husband with desperation. He did it for the family, to maintain our standard of living, To give you a better life, Noah. He is not a criminal. He is a father doing what is necessary. James, an older man with glasses who had been standing next to Arthur all this time, steps forward. "If I may, Mr. Sterling," he says with a professional voice, "I am James Moore, attorney for the Sterling firm, and I regret to inform you that forging signatures to obtain loans is financial fraud. It is a serious felony that carries between 5 and 10 years in prison." Richard finally looks up. His eyes are red. His expression is pure panic. "They cannot prove anything," he says with a trembling voice. "They have no real evidence." James takes out a tablet and turns it on. "We have Mrs. Eleanor's original signatures on other documents. We have the forged signatures on the loan contracts. We have the handwriting analysis that shows they do not match. And we have the testimonies of 3 bank employees who confirmed that Mrs. Eleanor never appeared personally to sign those documents." Pamela, who had been observing everything with her mouth open, tries to sneak discreetly toward the exit. Arthur stops her with a single look. "Ah, Miss Pamela," he says with an almost casual tone. "Catherine's cousin, right? The one who a few minutes ago suggested that Eleanor eat from the floor like a dog." Pamela freezes. "Me? I was just joking. It wasn't literal." "Jokes have consequences," responds Arthur, "especially when they are recorded by the security cameras of my ballroom. I have complete footage of this entire celebration. Every word, every insult, every moment of humiliation that you inflicted on Eleanor is documented." Catherine turns pale. "Why would you want to record your own ballroom?" she asks with a weak voice. "Security," responds Arthur simply. "But also because I suspected something like this might happen. When I saw that Richard had reserved the hall for his son's wedding, but did not include his own mother at the main table, I knew something was wrong, so I made sure to have all the necessary proof." Noah suddenly speaks with a strong and clear voice. "Stop this, everyone. This is my wedding. It is supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and it has turned into a nightmare. Grandma, I am so sorry. I didn't know any of this. I swear I didn't know." He walks toward me and hugs me. I can feel his tears wetting my shoulder. "You have always been good to me," he whispers. "Always. And they treated you like trash. I cannot forgive them for that." Catherine tries to approach Noah, but he raises his hand, stopping her. "No, Mom, not right now. I need to process all this." Arthur checks his gold watch. "It is 9 o'clock at night," he says. "This celebration was scheduled until midnight. But given the circumstances, I think it would be appropriate for it to end now." "You cannot kick us out," shouts Catherine hysterically. "We paid for this place." "You paid $50,000 for the rental," corrects Arthur. "But the contract clause clearly specifies that the owner reserves the right to terminate any event he considers inappropriate or that violates the terms of service, and verbal harassment toward other guests definitely violates those terms." The guests begin to murmur louder now. Some are already gathering their bags and shawls, clearly uncomfortable with the drama unfolding. I can see their faces. Some show pity toward me. Others seem fascinated by the scandal. A few look at Richard and Catherine with evident disgust. Catherine is on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Her perfect makeup begins to run from tears of rage. "They cannot do this to us," she screams, looking around for support. "Someone say something. This is unfair." "It is our celebration." But no one says anything. Richard's business partners, those important men who an hour ago treated him as an equal, now look at him with calculating expressions. They are doing mental math. They are evaluating if associating with a man accused of fraud is good for their business. And I can see on their faces that the answer is no. One of them, a heavy-set gentleman with a gray mustache, approaches Richard. "Reuben, I think he is called. I have heard my son mention that name before." "Richard," he says with a cold and professional voice, "I think we need to have a conversation about our distribution contract. Tomorrow in my office, 9 in the morning. It is not an invitation. It is an order, and they both know what it means. They are cutting ties." Another partner, younger but just as serious, nods. "I also need to review our agreements. Richard, in light of this financial information, I have concerns about the solvency of your company." Richard looks at them with desperation. "Please, can we talk about this in private? Not here. Not now. This is a misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," says Arthur firmly. Numbers do not lie. Documents do not lie. And the evidence is clear. Your company is bankrupt, and you have been hiding it with fraudulent loans. I feel dizzy. All this is too much. Just an hour ago, I was just a humiliated old woman at her grandson's wedding. Now I am standing next to a man who claims to be my son's father after 46 years of absence, discovering that my son is a criminal who forged my signature and put my house at risk. Arthur must notice my paleness because he takes my arm gently. Eleanor, you need to sit down, he says with genuine concern. James, bring a chair. The lawyer immediately brings over one of the elegant gold chairs. I sit down, grateful because my legs no longer support me. Arthur kneels in front of me, ignoring his expensive suit on the floor. He looks me in the eyes. I know this is overwhelming, he says softly. I know I have no right to ask you to trust me after all this time, but I need you to know something. Something that changes everything. What else can change? I whisper with a broken voice. What else can there be? Arthur takes a deep breath. 20 years ago, your husband, the man who raised Richard as if he were his own son, left you something in his will. A piece of land on the outskirts of the city, 40 acres of land that at that time were worth practically nothing. I remember that land. Ezekiel, my late husband, told me about it on his deathbed. It was land he had bought with his savings, dreaming of building a small farm someday. But we never had the money to develop it. When he died, it just stayed there. Empty land without any use. I know about that land, I say with confusion. But what does it have to do with all this? Arthur takes out another document. This one looks official, with seals and notary signatures. 5 years ago, he says slowly, the government approved an urban development plan for that zone. They built the largest shopping mall in the city exactly next to your land. The value of your property multiplied by 1,000. I stare at him without understanding. James continues the explanation. Mrs. Eleanor, that land you own is now worth $5 million. It is one of the most valuable properties in the area. $5 million. The words make no sense in my brain. $5 million. That cannot be real. I live in a modest little house with leaks in the roof. I eat rice and beans most days. I have worn the same coat for 10 years. That is impossible, I managed to say. If it were worth that much, someone would have told me. I would have received offers. Something. You received them, says Arthur with a somber expression. 37 offers in the last 5 years. All intercepted by Richard. My head turns abruptly toward my son. His face is completely red, sweat running down his forehead. He says nothing. He does not look at me. Richard is your designated executor, explains James. When your husband died, you signed a document giving him power of attorney to handle property matters on your behalf because you didn't know how to read complicated legal documents well. He has been using that power to intercept all offers for your land. Why? I ask, looking at Richard with fresh tears. Why would you do that? It is my property, my only security. Richard finally speaks. His voice is defensive, desperate, because I was waiting for the right moment. I wanted the value to go up more. I was going to sell it to one of my partners. We were going to split the profits, 50-50. 50-50 of my property? I scream with a fury I didn't know I had inside. Without even telling me? Without even asking me? Catherine tries to justify it. It was for your own good, Eleanor. You don't understand business. You don't know how to manage that kind of money. You would have ended up being scammed by someone. The irony of her words is so grotesque that I almost laugh. You were scamming me. You, my own family. Arthur stands up and places himself by my side again, like a guardian. And there is more, he says, looking at Richard. We also found drafts of a document you planned to have your mother sign. A document transferring ownership of the land to your name under the pretext of protecting it from potential lawsuits. Richard crumbles visibly. He puts his hands to his head. This is not happening. It cannot be happening. Noah walks toward his father with an expression I had never seen on him. Absolute disappointment. So it is true, he says with a trembling voice. Everything this gentleman is saying is true. You have been stealing from Grandma. It is not theft if it is family, Catherine tries to argue weakly. It is asset management. It is fraud, corrects James firmly. It is misappropriation. It is abuse of fiduciary power. There are at least 5 different crimes documented here. The guests are now definitely leaving. Small groups walk toward the exit, murmuring among themselves. Some look at me with pity as they pass. An older lady stops and squeezes my shoulder with sympathy before leaving. Pamela tries to sneak out with a group that is leaving, but Arthur raises his voice. "Miss Pamela, you stay. There is something about you that Mrs. Eleanor needs to know." Pamela stops, her face showing panic. "I haven't done anything. I am just Catherine's cousin. I have nothing to do with their dirty business. But you have something to do with the planning of this humiliation," says Arthur. "My investigators reviewed the messages between you and Catherine. The messages where you planned exactly how to humiliate Eleanor tonight. Where to seat her, how to make sure everyone noticed her cheap dress, how to orchestrate the food moment to maximize public embarrassment. I feel as if I have been punched in the stomach. It was not spontaneous. It wasn't that Richard lost his temper in a moment of tension. It was planned. Every detail was deliberately designed to destroy me. Catherine tries to deny it, but her face gives her away. That isn't. It was for everyone's good. You didn't want to ruin the wedding photos with your appearance, Eleanor. It was for Noah. For Noah, I repeat, feeling disgust. You use your son's name to justify your cruelty. Noah moves physically away from his parents. He positions himself on the other side of the room, near me. "I don't want to be near you anymore," he says with a firm voice. "I don't know who you are. I thought I knew my parents, but I don't recognize you at all." Catherine lets out a dramatic moan. "Noah, son, you can't say that. We are your family. We did everything for you." "No, Mom, you did it for yourselves, for your image, for your status, for your damn pride." Arthur claps slowly. "Well said, boy. You have more backbone than your father, that is for sure." Richard finally explodes. "You have no right to judge me. You who abandoned us. You who were never there. You who left my mother in misery. You are worse than me. At least I was present." "Present for what?" I ask with a cold voice that surprises even myself. "To work me until my body was destroyed while you enjoyed a comfortable life? To steal my property? To humiliate me publicly at my grandson's wedding? That is your idea of being present?" "Mom, Don't call me Mom," I interrupt him. "That word implies love, respect, gratitude. You feel none of that for me. I am just a shameful nuisance that reminds you where you come from." The silence that follows is absolute. Even the last remaining guests have stopped to observe. Arthur looks at me with something resembling pride in his eyes. Richard tries to approach me with his hands extended in a gesture of pleading. His eyes are red, swollen from tears. "Mom, please," he says with a broken voice. "Let me explain. Let me fix this. I can fix everything." I move away from him instinctively. Arthur interposes himself between us like a shield. "I think you have explained enough," he says with an icy tone. "And frankly, there is nothing to fix here except the legal consequences of your actions." Catherine runs to her husband and hugs him. "They are attacking your family," she screams at Arthur. "You show up after decades as if you were a savior, but you are just destroying everything." "What kind of father does that?" "The kind of father who won't allow the woman who raised his son alone to be abused," responds Arthur without flinching. "The kind of father who arrived 46 years late, but who at least arrived when he was needed most." Richard breaks free from Catherine's embrace and kneels in front of me. The knees of his expensive pants touch the marble floor. "Mom, listen to me. I know I made mistakes. I know I failed you, but I can change. Give me a chance. We are family. Family forgives." I look down at this 46-year-old man crying like a child. This is the baby I breastfed, the child I comforted after nightmares, the teenager I helped with his homework until 2 a.m. while my eyes burned with fatigue, the young man I supported when he started his business by lending him the only $1,000 I had saved. And now he is a stranger who forged my signature and planned to steal my property. Family forgives. I repeat his words slowly. But first, family respects. And you never respected me, Richard. From the moment you started making money, you saw me as an embarrassment, as something you had to hide. "That is not true," he sobs. "I love you. I have always loved you. You love me so much that you planned this humiliation weeks in advance," I say, pointing to Catherine and Pamela. You love me so much that you intercepted offers for my land for 5 years. You love me so much that you put my house at risk with fraudulent loans. Every word is like a knife, and I can see how they pierce him. But I do not stop. 46 years of enduring silent slights are coming out now. Do you know how many times in the last 10 years you have invited me to your house, Richard? 3 times. 3 times in 10 years. And always when there was no one else. Never when your partners came. Never when there were parties. Because you were ashamed that they would see your poor mother with her deformed hands and her second-hand clothes. Mom, stop, he pleads, covering his face. No, I won't stop. Do you know how many Christmases I have spent alone in my house while you celebrated with Catherine's elegant family? Do you know how many times I have lied to my neighbors, saying that my son is very busy, when the truth is that he simply does not want to be seen with me? Noah is crying openly now. Grandma, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know any of this. I know, my love, I tell him tenderly. You were always different. You did call me. You did come to visit me. That is why it hurt me so much to see how your parents treated me today, on your special day. James clears his throat. Mrs. Eleanor, if I may, there are documents you need to sign. Documents that revoke the power of attorney you gave to Richard. Documents that protect your property from any future attempt at appropriation. Yes, I say firmly. Where do I sign? James takes a leather folder out of his briefcase. Arthur brings a small table closer to me and places the documents on it. The lawyer explains each page patiently, pointing out where I should sign. My hand trembles, but my determination is firm. You cannot do this, screams Catherine hysterically. Richard is your son. You cannot take away his right to help you with your affairs. It is not help when it is without my knowledge or consent. I respond while signing the last document. That is called control. That is called manipulation. Arthur takes the signed documents and hands them to James. Now, these documents are in the hands of the most respected firm in the city, he says, looking at Richard. Any attempt to interfere with Eleanor's property will be considered harassment and will be prosecuted with the full weight of the law. Richard gets up from the floor. His expression changes. The tears dry. His eyes become cold, calculating. I recognize that look. It is the look he uses when he is negotiating difficult deals. Very well, he says with a controlled voice. If that is how you want to play this, Mom, but remember that without my help, you don't know how to handle $5 million. You are going to get scammed. You are going to get cheated. And when that happens, don't come asking me for help. Arthur laughs. It is a genuine laugh, almost amused. You really think she needs your help? You, who are bankrupt. You, who have proven to be completely incompetent handling money? I am not bankrupt, protests Richard weakly. I just have temporary cash flow problems. You have debts for $2,300,000, corrects James, consulting his documents. Your last financial statement shows assets of $600,000 and liabilities of $3 million. You are technically insolvent. The few remaining guests exchange significant looks. Richard's reputation is destroyed. I can see it on their faces. Tomorrow, the whole city will know that the successful businessman Richard is actually a bankrupt fraud. Catherine takes her husband by the arm. Let's go, Richard. We don't have to stay here to be humiliated. The irony of her words is so perfect that I almost smile. Now you know what it feels like to be humiliated publicly, I say with a calm voice. Now you know what it feels like to be treated like trash in front of everyone. Maybe now you understand a fraction of the pain you caused me tonight. Pamela tries to sneak away again, but Arthur points at her with his cane. You are not leaving yet either. I have a question for you. Why? Why did you participate in this cruelty? What did you gain by humiliating an old woman? Pamela stammers, searching for words. Catherine is my cousin. I was supporting her. Supporting her in what exactly? Presses Arthur. In psychologically torturing her mother-in-law? Those are your family values? Pamela has no answer. She simply stands there, her expensive dress and perfect makeup unable to hide the ugliness of her character. Noah approaches me and hugs me tightly. Grandma, he says with a firm voice, I want you to know something. From today on, you are my family. They, he points to his parents, need to earn that title again, and it is going to take much more than fake tears and empty apologies. Catherine lets out a stifled scream. Noah, we are your parents. Can't you choose between us and her? Of course I can, responds my grandson. And I already chose. I chose dignity over hypocrisy. I chose real love over manipulation. I chose the woman who was always there over the people who only think about themselves. Richard looks at his son with genuine pain in his eyes. Son, please, don't do this. Don't destroy our family. You destroyed the family, Dad. I am just recognizing the truth. Arthur places his hand on my shoulder. Eleanor, he says softly, there is something else you need to know. Something about your options now. I look at him with curiosity and exhaustion. This night has been a whirlwind of emotions that has left me completely drained. What else can there be? I ask with a tired voice. What else do I need to know? Arthur exchanges a look with James. The lawyer nods and takes another document out of his endless briefcase. Mrs. Eleanor, says James with a professional but kind tone. In addition to the land, we have discovered that you have other assets you are probably not aware of. Other assets? I repeat, confused. I have nothing else. Just my little house and that land, which I didn't even know was worth anything. Your late husband was a smarter man than everyone thought, explains James. Before he died, he invested small amounts of money in stocks of 3 technology companies that at that time were worth practically nothing. Stocks that remained in your name. Mrs. Eleanor, I recall vaguely that Ezekiel, my husband, mentioned something about buying papers from some companies, but they were such small amounts, maybe $500 in total, that I never paid attention to them after his death. I thought those papers were worth nothing. Those 3 companies, continues James, have become multi-billion-dollar corporations. His $500 of initial investment are now worth approximately $800,000. I feel like I am going to faint. $800,000 plus $5 million for the land. That is $5,800,000. I am a millionaire. Me, who has lived on $120 a month pension for years. Me, who counts every penny before buying food. Richard staggers as if he had been hit. $800,000 additional, he murmurs. All this time. All this damn time. Catherine looks at him with wild eyes. Why didn't you know about those stocks? You are supposed to be the executor. You are supposed to know everything about her finances. Why are those stocks in an account that your husband never checked? Responds Arthur with barely contained satisfaction. They are in an old investment account that remained inactive for years. Only someone doing an exhaustive search of all assets would have found it. Someone like my investigators. So I have almost $6 million, I say slowly, trying to process this impossible information. 6 million. Correct, confirms James. And with the documentation you just signed, everything is protected. No one can touch that money except you. Richard takes a step toward me. His expression has changed again. Now there is something desperate, almost manic in his eyes. Mom, listen. With that money, I could save my company. You could pay my debts. We are family. Family helps each other. I cannot believe what I am hearing. You have just been exposed as a fraud and a thief, I say with disbelief. And your first reaction is to ask me for money? It is not asking, it is investing, he says quickly. You could be a partner in my company. You would recover your money multiplied when things improve. Things are not going to improve, Richard, says Arthur harshly. Your company is dead. Your partners are abandoning you as we speak. Your reputation is destroyed. No bank is going to lend you another cent. You are finished. Catherine turns to me with an expression that tries to be pleading, but only looks calculating. Eleanor, think about it. If Richard's company goes bankrupt, Noah will have no inheritance. Your own grandson will suffer. Can you be so selfish? Noah intervenes immediately. Don't use my name to manipulate her. Mom, I don't want anything from a company built on fraud and lies. I prefer to start from scratch than inherit debts and disgrace. Catherine looks at him as if she didn't recognize him. You have changed, she says with venom in her voice. That old woman has brainwashed you. That old woman has a name, says Noah firmly. Her name is Eleanor. She is my grandmother. And she has more honor in her little finger than you two in your entire bodies. Arthur claps slowly again. I like you more and more, boy. You have a spine. Pamela finally finds her voice. This is surreal. Everyone is acting as if Richard were a monster when he was just trying to manage family assets efficiently. Efficiently, I repeat the word with disgust. You call forging signatures efficient, hiding offers, planning to steal property, publicly humiliating an old woman? Well, maybe if you weren't so ignorant about finances, Richard wouldn't have had to take control, spits Pamela. Maybe if you had been a more educated, more sophisticated mother, your son wouldn't be ashamed of you. The silence that follows is so dense it could be cut. Even Catherine looks at Pamela with surprise. The cousin just crossed a line from which there is no return. Arthur walks slowly toward Pamela. He is a tall man, and she instinctively backs away. "Miss," he says with a dangerously low voice. "Eleanor raised a son alone in poverty. She worked 3 jobs simultaneously. She destroyed her hands sewing so that son could eat. She sacrificed herself completely to give him opportunities. And you, who have probably never worked an honest day in your life, dare to call her ignorant? I was just saying that." "No," Arthur interrupts her. "You have said enough, and now you are going to listen to something. Eleanor is more educated than you because she understands concepts that you will never comprehend. Sacrifice, humility, dignity, unconditional love. Those are values that no university teaches, and clearly your family didn't teach you either." Pamela is trembling now. She looks at Catherine, searching for support. But her cousin is too busy trying to calm Richard, who seems to be on the verge of a panic attack. James clears his throat again. "There is one more matter we must discuss. The fraudulent loans that Mr. Richard obtained using Mrs. Eleanor's name. What about them? What happens with them?" I ask. "Technically," explains the lawyer, "given that your signature was forged, you are not responsible for those debts. However, the banks can still try to foreclose on your house while it is resolved legally. It could take months, even years of litigation." I feel panic rising in my chest. My house, my small house where I have lived for 20 years, where all my memories of my late husband are, where Ezekiel died in my arms promising me that everything would be okay. "However," continues James, "Mr. Sterling has proposed a solution." Arthur nods. "I will buy those debts from the banks. I can do it tomorrow. Once I am the creditor, I can release Eleanor from any responsibility and legally pursue only Richard." "That would cost you more than $1 million, I say, surprised. "Why would you do that?" Arthur looks at me with those light brown eyes, so similar to Richard's. "Because I arrived 46 years late, Eleanor. Because I left you alone and pregnant. Because I wasn't there when you needed me. I cannot change the past, but I can make sure your future is protected. I do not need your charity," I say with pride I didn't know I still had. "I do not need you to rescue me." "It is not charity," responds Arthur softly. "It is responsibility. It is restitution. It is the least I can do after all the damage I caused." Richard lets out a bitter, broken laugh. "How convenient. You appear as the savior hero while you turn me into the villain. But where were you when I was a child and I was teased for not having a father? Where were you when Mom cried alone at night thinking I was asleep? Where were you when it really mattered?" For the first time tonight, I see genuine pain on Arthur's face. "You are right," he says with a broken voice. "I was not there, and that is a failure I will never be able to repair completely. But at least I am here now. At least I am trying. You, on the other hand, had your mother all your life and chose to betray her." The words hit Richard like physical punches. He crumbles visibly. Catherine tries to hold him, but he pulls away from her. Noah approaches Arthur. "Mr. Sterling," he says with respect, "thank you for protecting my grandmother. I don't know if you seek redemption or simply to do the right thing, but I thank you." Arthur smiles sadly. "Call me Arthur, boy. Or grandfather, if one day you feel I have earned it." Noah looks at Arthur with eyes shining with emotion. "I need time to process all this," he says honestly. "But I think I would like to know you better. To know where my family really comes from." "I would like that," responds Arthur with a choked voice. "I would like that very much." Richard watches this exchange with an expression of absolute defeat. He is losing his son. He can see it happening right before his eyes, and there is nothing he can do to stop it, all because of his own greed and cruelty. Catherine tries one last desperate attack. "This is manipulation," she screams, pointing at Arthur. He shows up with his money and his power and buys everyone's affection. He separates families. He destroys marriages. And everyone treats him like a saint. No one is being manipulated. Catherine, I say with a tired but firm voice. They are simply seeing the truth. The truth that you and Richard tried to hide with lies and humiliations. You have no right to judge us, spits Catherine. You lived in poverty all your life. You never understood the pressures of maintaining a certain social status. You never understood what it cost to move in high-level circles. You are right, I say, surprising her. I do not understand how someone can value status over human decency. I do not understand how someone can deliberately plan to humiliate an old woman just to protect their image. I do not understand that kind of evil, and I am glad I don't understand it. Arthur takes out his phone. With your permission, Eleanor, I think it is time to make some calls. I need to contact my lawyers to begin the process of buying those debts early tomorrow. Do what you consider necessary, I respond. I no longer have energy to argue. James approaches with another document. Mrs. Eleanor, we also need to discuss what to do with your land. You have received offers of up to $5,200,000 from real estate developers. Could you sell it and have immediate liquidity? Or could you develop it yourself and generate passive income for years? The idea of making such big decisions overwhelms me completely. I don't know what to do. I admit. All this is too much. Just a few hours ago, I just wanted to see my grandson get married. And now I am talking about millions of dollars and investment decisions. You don't have to decide anything tonight, says Arthur gently. In fact, I would recommend that you don't take any important decision for at least a month. Process everything that has happened. Speak with independent financial advisors. I can recommend some who have no connection to me, so you know there is no conflict of interest. Why are you being so kind to me? I ask, looking at him with suspicion. What do you gain from all this? Arthur sighs deeply. I gain nothing, Eleanor. If anything, I lose money buying those debts. But maybe, just maybe, I can sleep a little better at night knowing that I finally did something right. Something I should have done 46 years ago. Richard suddenly speaks with a strangely calm voice. Mom, he says, looking directly at me. I know you don't trust me anymore. I know you probably hate me right now. But I need you to understand something. Everything I did, all the decisions I took, I thought they were for the good of the family. We were not part of your family, Richard. I respond with sadness. I was an embarrassment you hid, an uncomfortable secret from your poor past. That is not true, he protests weakly. I love you. I have always loved you. Love does not plan public humiliations, I say firmly. Love does not forge signatures. Love does not steal. Whatever you feel for me, Richard, is not love. It is perhaps an uncomfortable obligation, perhaps a little residual guilt, but it is not love. His eyes fill with tears again. How can you say that after everything we have been through together? After all the years? Years mean nothing without respect, son, and you lost my respect a long time ago. Tonight only confirmed what I already suspected. Noah places his hand on my shoulder. Grandma, I think we should go. You have endured enough for one night. He is right, agrees Arthur. Eleanor, my chauffeur is outside. I can take you home, or if you prefer, I have a suite at the Sterling Hotel where you can stay tonight. Complete privacy, room service, whatever you need. The idea of returning to my little house alone after all, this seems unbearable. I accept the suite, I say in a low voice. Just for tonight. Arthur makes a gesture, and a man in a dark suit appears immediately. He must have been waiting nearby all this time. Prepare the presidential suite for Mrs. Eleanor, orders Arthur, and make sure she has everything she might need. The man nods and disappears, speaking into a discreet radio. Richard takes a step toward me with his hands extended. Mom, please, don't leave like this. Let's not end the night this way. We can talk. We can fix this. There is nothing to fix tonight, Richard. I need distance. I need time. I need to process that my own son considers me so insignificant that he planned my humiliation as if it were a corporate event. Catherine lets out a dramatic sob. You are destroying our family, she screams. You are all destroying years of work, years of building a life, for a stupid misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeat with disbelief. You call forging legal documents a misunderstanding? Financial fraud? Premeditated emotional abuse? Pamela finally speaks again, her voice small and scared. Catherine, I think we should go. This isn't going to get better tonight. For the first time, Catherine seems to listen to sensible advice. She takes Richard by the arm. Let's go, honey. Tomorrow we will talk to lawyers. We will fix all this. There is nothing to fix legally, says James with a professional tone. The documents are in order. The evidence is irrefutable. Criminal charges are inevitable unless Richard cooperates completely with the authorities. What does that mean exactly? Asks Richard with a trembling voice. It means that if you voluntarily confess to the fraud, if you return everything you took, if you accept the bankruptcy of your company without resistance, then we could negotiate a reduced sentence, maybe community service instead of prison, maybe probation instead of jail. Prison, whispers Richard, turning pale. They could send me to prison. Securities fraud, forgery of legal documents, abuse of fiduciary power, lists James. Each carries potential sentences of 5 to 10 years, cumulative. We could be talking about 20 years. Catherine crumbles completely. She lets out a scream and grabs Richard's arm as if he could protect her from this reality. 20 years! My husband cannot go to prison for 20 years. We have a life. We have plans. You should have thought of that before committing crimes, says Arthur without sympathy. Actions have consequences. Finally, you are learning that lesson. Noah takes my hand. Grandma, let's go. Please. You need to rest. He is right. I feel my legs barely holding me. My whole body hurts from the tension of this endless night. Yes, let's go. Arthur offers his arm and I accept it. We walk together toward the exit of the ballroom. The last remaining guests watch us in silence, some with respect, others with morbid curiosity, one or two with genuine compassion. When we reach the door, I hear Richard's voice behind us. Mom, wait. I stop, but I do not turn around. What? Richard? I am sorry. I really am sorry. I know it means nothing now. I know words are empty. But I need you to know. I am sorry. There is a long silence. Arthur waits patiently, without pressuring me. Noah squeezes my hand gently. Finally, I speak without turning back. I am sorry too, Richard. I feel like I failed you somehow. That I didn't teach you the right values. That I gave you so much sacrifice that you forgot how to appreciate what you have. That I loved you so much I didn't prepare you for the hardness of the world. I am sorry for that. And then I walk outside without looking back. The fresh night air hits my face when we leave the hall. I breathe deeply, trying to fill my lungs with something different than the smell of expensive perfumes and betrayal. The sky is dark, full of stars that seem indifferent to all the human drama that just unfolded under that elegant roof. A black car waits at the entrance. It is not simply a car. It is a long, shiny limousine that probably costs more than my entire house. The chauffeur, an older man with an impeccable uniform, opens the back door with a respectful bow. Ma'am, he says with a kind voice, it is an honor to serve you. I climb in awkwardly. I have never been in a vehicle like this. The seats are leather, soft as butter. There are dim lights on the ceiling, creating a soothing atmosphere. Arthur sits next to me while Noah climbs in on the other side. James settles in the seat facing us. The car begins to move smoothly. I look out the window toward the hall we left behind. I can see the silhouette of Richard and Catherine at the entrance, hugging, probably crying. Pamela is talking on the phone frantically. Their whole perfect world has crumbled in a single night. And I should feel satisfaction. I should feel justice. But I only feel a deep and painful emptiness. Arthur must notice my expression because he speaks softly. It is normal to feel confused, Eleanor. Justice and pain can coexist. You can be furious with Richard and still love him. You can want him to face consequences and still wish it weren't necessary. I love him. I whisper with tears rolling down my cheeks. Despite everything, despite what he did, he is still my son. I carried him in my womb. I breastfed him. I took care of him when he was sick. How do I stop loving him just because he betrayed me? You don't have to stop loving him, says Noah, squeezing my hand. But you can love him from a distance. You can love him and still protect yourself. You can love him and still demand respect. The boy is right. agrees Arthur. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance. It means you wish the best for that person, even when the best thing is for them to face the consequences of their actions. James clears his throat. Mrs. Eleanor, if I may, tomorrow we will need to meet to discuss the next legal steps. We need to file formal charges against Richard for the fraud. We need to ensure all your assets are protected. And we need to begin the process of financial administration of your new wealth. New wealth. The words sound surreal. 12 hours ago, I was a poor old woman worried about being able to pay the electricity bill this month. Now, I am a millionaire. How is it possible for life to change so drastically in such a short time? I cannot think about any of that tonight, I say with an exhausted voice. My brain is completely saturated. Of course, responds James kindly. Rest tonight. Tomorrow at 10 in the morning, I will send someone from the firm to visit you at the hotel. Just to talk informally, without pressure, about the options. The car stops in front of an imposing building. Sterling Hotel, it says in bright gold letters above the entrance. It is one of the most luxurious hotels in the city. I have passed in front of it many times, but I never imagined I would enter. The chauffeur opens my door and helps me down gently. Arthur offers me his arm again, and we walk together toward the entrance. The glass doors open automatically. The lobby is spectacular. Marble floors that shine like mirrors, crystal chandeliers, fresh flowers in huge vases, impeccably dressed employees who look at us with respect. A young woman behind the reception desk sees us arrive, and her face lights up. Mr. Sterling, she says with a professional smile. Everything is ready as ordered. The presidential suite is prepared. Thank you, Adriana, responds Arthur. This is Mrs. Eleanor. She is a very special guest. I want her to be provided with everything she needs. Absolutely everything. The receptionist nods effusively. Of course, sir. Mrs. Eleanor, it is a pleasure to welcome you. She hands me a key card in an elegant envelope. Arthur guides me toward the elevators. We go up in silence. The elevator is as elegant as the rest of the hotel. It has soft music and walls with golden mirrors. We arrive at the 15th floor. The doors open directly to a private hallway with a single door at the end. The presidential suite. Arthur uses his own card to open. The suite is bigger than my entire house. It has a living room with furniture that looks taken from a magazine. A small but fully equipped kitchen. A dining room with a table for 6 people. And through an open door, I can see a bedroom with a huge bed covered in fluffy pillows. The bathroom, says Arthur, pointing to another door, has a whirlpool tub. The minibar is fully stocked at no charge. Room service is available 24 hours. Just dial 0 on the phone and ask for whatever you need. I don't know what to say. This is too much. It is not too much, says Arthur firmly. It is the minimum. Eleanor, you spent 46 years surviving with the minimum. Allow me to give you a night of true comfort. Noah explores the suite with amazement. Grandma, there is a giant TV, and another one in the bedroom. And look at this sofa, it's so soft. Despite everything, I smile seeing his youthful enthusiasm. Arthur observes him with a complex expression. He is a good boy, he says in a low voice. Despite his parents, he is a good boy. He is. I agree with pride. He always has been. James says goodbye with a bow. Rest, Mrs. Eleanor. Tomorrow we will begin to build your new future. When he leaves, Arthur stays a moment longer at the door. There is something I need to tell you, Eleanor. Something I couldn't say in front of everyone. I look at him waiting. What is it? I never stopped thinking about you, he says with a broken voice. For 46 years, not a single day went by without me wondering how you were. If you were okay. If the baby had been born healthy. If you hated me. I looked for you for years, but I didn't know your married name. I didn't know where you lived. And when I finally found you 3 years ago, I didn't have the courage to approach. 3 years ago, I repeat processing this information. You found me 3 years ago and said nothing. I was a coward, he admits. I am still a coward. But when I saw your name on the guest list for this wedding, when my investigators told me what Richard was planning, I knew I couldn't keep being a coward. I had to intervene. Why now, I ask? Why after so long? Because I am 74 years old, Eleanor. Because my health is not what it was. Because I have maybe 10 years of life left if I am lucky, and I don't want to die being the coward who abandoned the woman he loved and the son he never knew. The woman you loved, I repeat his words. I loved you, he confirms with tears in his eyes. I loved you so much it terrified me. I was so young, so stupid, so trapped in my family's expectations, and I chose wrong. I chose money and status over love, and I have paid that price every day since then. We stand looking at each other. Two old people who were once young and in love. Two people whose lives took such different paths. Two survivors of decisions that cannot be undone. I don't know if I can forgive you, I say honestly. I don't know if I ever will be able to. I don't expect your forgiveness, responds Arthur. I only hope you can allow me to be in your life in some way, even if it is from afar, even if it is just as the man who makes sure you never suffer again. Noah approaches and looks at both of us. Grandma, he says softly, I think you should rest. It has been an impossible night. He is right. I am so tired I can barely keep my eyes open. Arthur nods and walks toward the door. Good night, Eleanor. Rest well. When the door closes, I remain standing in the middle of this luxurious suite, feeling completely lost. Noah hugs me. It is going to be okay, Grandma. Everything is going to be okay. I wake up with the sun entering through the thick curtains of the suite. For a moment I don't remember where I am. Then everything returns like a wave. The wedding, the humiliation, Arthur, the millions, Richard, everything. I sit on the huge bed and look around. Noah slept on the living room sofa. I can hear his soft breathing from here. It is early, maybe 6 in the morning. I have spent so many years waking up early to work that my body no longer knows how to sleep late. I get up and walk toward the window. The city spreads out below, waking up slowly. From up here, everything looks small, manageable, but I know that down there, in those streets, my life has changed forever. I hear a soft knock on the door. I open it and find a cart with breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, orange juice, coffee. There is a note. I thought you might need this. Arthur. Noah wakes up with the smell of coffee. Good morning, Grandma, he says, rubbing his eyes. How did you sleep? Surprisingly well, I admit. That bed is like sleeping on a cloud. We eat breakfast together in comfortable silence. Finally, Noah speaks. What are you going to do now, Grandma? With all the money? With Richard? With everything? I sigh, taking my coffee. Honestly, I don't know. Yesterday I was one person, and today I am someone completely different. Not just because of the money. Because of everything I discovered, everything that changed. There is another knock on the door. This time it is James with a briefcase. Good morning, Mrs. Eleanor. I hope I am not interrupting. I just wanted to talk briefly about some options. We sit in the living room. James takes out documents and begins to explain. The offers for the land, the investment options for the stocks, the strategies to protect the assets. My head spins with so much information. And what happens with Richard? I ask finally. What is going to happen with my son? James gets serious. That depends on you, Mrs. Eleanor. We can file full criminal charges. He would face prison. Or we can negotiate a deal where he confesses, declares bankruptcy, returns everything stolen, and receives a suspended sentence with community service. Which do you recommend? The lawyer looks directly at me. As a lawyer, I recommend the option that protects you the most. Full charges. As a human being, I understand he is your son, and that a mother's love is not erased by betrayal. Before I can answer, my phone rings. It is a number I don't recognize, but I answer. Mom, says Richard's voice. His voice sounds broken, exhausted. Please, I need to talk to you. Please. Where are you? I ask. In the hotel lobby. The staff won't let me up without your authorization. Please, Mom. Just 5 minutes. That is all I ask. I look at Noah and James. Both look at me, leaving me to decide. Finally, I sigh. Let him up. When Richard enters the suite minutes later, I almost don't recognize him. He is wearing the same clothes as last night, but wrinkled and stained. His hair is disheveled. His eyes are red and swollen. He seems to have aged 10 years in one night. Mom, he says, and his voice breaks immediately. He falls to his knees in front of me. Forgive me, please, forgive me. I cannot live knowing what I did to you. I cannot breathe knowing I hurt you so deeply. The tears run down his face. They are real tears, not the calculated tears of last night. These are tears of a man completely destroyed. Richard, I say softly. Get up from the floor. He obeys, trembling. He sits on the sofa with his head in his hands. Catherine left me, he says with a hollow voice. She left early this morning. She said she cannot be with a man who is going to prison, that she cannot be with a failure. She took her things and went to Pamela's house. I am sorry, I say, and I mean it. Despite everything, I don't want him to suffer. Don't be sorry, he says bitterly. You were right about her. You were right about everything. I spent so many years trying to be someone I am not, trying to impress people who are not worth it, and I lost the only real thing I had. I lost you. You haven't lost me, Richard. I am still here. He looks up with surprise. How can you say that after everything? How can you even look at me? Because I am your mother. Because despite all the pain, despite all the betrayal, you remain my son. A mother's love does not turn off like a switch. But I am going to prison, Mom. James explained everything to me. I can go to prison for 20 years. I look at James. There is another option, I remind him. The lawyer nods. Mr. Richard, if you voluntarily confess all your crimes, if you agree to return everything you took, if you declare bankruptcy and accept financial supervision for 10 years, we can negotiate a suspended sentence, community service, probation, but it requires total cooperation. Richard looks at me with desperate hope. You would do that for me? After everything? With conditions, I say firmly. First condition, mandatory therapy. You need professional help to understand why you did what you did. Second condition, no more contact until you demonstrate real change. You can write me letters. I can read them when I am ready. Third condition, you leave Noah alone. You do not manipulate him. You do not pressure him. You let him live his life. I accept, he says immediately. I accept everything, whatever it is. And fourth condition, I continue. You will use part of your community service working in soup kitchens for the homeless. You will spend time with people living in the poverty that has shamed you so much. You will learn humility. Yes, Mom. Whatever you say. Noah approaches his father. Dad, he says with a serious voice, I am going to be watching. If you do this for real, if you change for real, maybe one day we can rebuild something. But it has to be real. No more lies. Richard hugs his son, crying. I will do better. I promise. I will be better. There is a knock on the door again. This time it is Arthur. He enters and sees Richard. The tension in the air is palpable. Two men who never met, but who are connected by blood and by me. Son, says Arthur slowly, I want you to know that I bought all your debts this morning. I am your creditor now. Richard turns pale. That means you can destroy me completely. I could, admits Arthur, but I won't. If you cooperate with justice, if you really change, I will forgive the debts. All of them. Your mother suffered enough raising you alone. I don't want her to suffer seeing her son in prison if there is another way. Why? Because I failed as a father 46 years ago, responds Arthur. And perhaps if I had been there, if I had raised you alongside your mother, you would be a different man. Part of your failure is my responsibility. Not all, but part. The two men look at each other. There is so much pain, so much lost time, so many unsaid words. Finally, Richard extends his hand. Thank you, he says simply. Arthur takes it. Don't thank me. Thank your mother. She is the one who decided to give you this opportunity. I get up and walk toward the window. I look at the city down there. I think about everything that has happened, about everything that is coming. What are you going to do now, Mom? Asks Richard softly. I turn around and look at them all. At my broken son, at my strong grandson, at Arthur, the ghost of my past, at James, the guardian of my future. I am going to live, I say clearly. For the first time in 72 years, I am going to live without fear, without money worries, without the need to prove anything to anyone. I am going to travel. I am going to see the world I could never see. I am going to help other people who are where I was. I am going to open a community center for women struggling alone, I am going to make my suffering mean something. Arthur smiles. I would like to help with that community center, if you allow me. And I would like to work there, says Noah. I want to do something meaningful with my life. Even Richard speaks. When I finish my community service, I would like to be part of that too, if you allow me someday. I look at them all. My broken family, but maybe, just maybe, in the process of healing, justice was done, I say softly. Richard will face consequences, but he will have a chance at redemption. I have financial security for the first time in my life. Noah has the freedom to choose his own path. And Arthur, finally, you are doing the right thing. I approach the window one last time. The sun is shining completely now. It is a new day, a new life. I spent 72 years surviving. Now I am going to spend the rest of my days living, really living, and for the first time in more years than I can count, I smile with genuine hope.